How you doing? How you doing this week? It's been an interesting week, hasn't it? I'm sure all of you have a story to tell. It's been interesting to me as I go through my week and as I talk with different people about what's been going on in their lives. I hear the word tired, and we just started the year. But yet people are already experiencing a level of tiredness, the need of rest. I don't know, I was doing some studies as I was looking through the passage we're going to be looking at. If you want to open to Matthew chapter 11, I'll get there here in just a moment. If you have Bibles with you, if you don't, that's okay. I mean, you can look on your phone or look with the person who's sitting next to you, but also just so you know, I'll be reading it here in a moment. But as I was studying through this, I found it fascinating that many scholars and also studies out there have designated this generation, the last few years, as the tired generation. The tired generation. That through so many various studies over the past 2 decades, people have realized that they struggle with anxiety and loss of sleep. 4 main things that they are attributed to that. One would be technology takeover. Meaning that we wake up in the morning looking at our phones. We go to bed at night looking at our phones. We have our phones sitting next to us at night, chirping all night long. And you wonder why we don't get any sleep. There's also the hustle culture. Now, some people would say that's because we're in the rush. But really what it is it actually is directly linked to the third issue, and that would be people worrying about their finances. But because of that, they feel like they've got to have a side hustle. They've got to have a side hustle. I got to have something else to kind of bring in some extra money, or maybe just to make me more satisfied with life. Then finally, they say that it really comes down to poor coping behaviors, meaning that we have lost sight of how to eat, how to sleep, and how to consume various things, specifically alcohol and caffeine, which all wreak havoc on our sleep cycle. Now, what's interesting for me as I look at chapter 11 of Matthew, I see that all of these things that they're addressing, especially in the psychological profiles and those challenges, are symptoms. They're addressing symptoms. They aren't really addressing the heart of the issue. Rest, if you desire to have it, is a soul issue. It is a soul thing. It can come down and kind of manifest itself in the physical and also in the emotional side of things. But really, what we need to address first is the rest for our souls. There's an author and philosopher named Henry David Thoreau, and he said, most men or people lead lives of quiet desperation. His quote is alluding to the many who are troubled and agitated in their souls, because primarily they're looking for satisfaction in all the wrong places. Some are good and some are not as good. I mean, you can look for satisfaction in your friends, family, maybe a bottle, maybe some food, maybe some pills, pleasure, your workplace, money, entertainment, and the list isn't exhaustive. But the rest that we all seek can't really be found in those things for the long term. See, today, just so you know, isn't meant to be a lesson in effective breathing techniques or how to not be on your phone too much, even though many of you are on social media at this time. Or that I want to show you how to have a good night's sleep, or maybe the value of having a holiday at the beach. That's not what I'm going to be talking about when it comes to the whole idea of rest. Rest for your souls. I'll be looking at a passage that's so well known. It is the passage that's launched 1,000 social media posts and also has kept the Christian card industry afloat. But I'm going to quote a scholar named Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride by saying that I do not think it means what you think it means when you quote this passage out of Matthew chapter 11. You probably can quote it along with me, even though we have different translations. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It just kind of rushes over to you, doesn't it? Just like, oh, thank you. Yes, that's what I need. That's what I want. That's what I'm seeking. It's only February and I'm already exhausted. But again, I think we kind of missed the point when we quote this passage when it comes to the need of rest, physical rest. Many scholars would say that this statement is simple, utterly simple, and exceptionally comprehensive. And that it is really the pressure release for life. Jesus is really showing us the position of our souls. What is it to have rest within our souls? See, Jesus isn't speaking about your physical rest. He's talking about a spiritual need. Most of us are weary in our spirits today. That usually follows with the rest is kind of an understanding and a need for, a desire for a physical rest, but really it comes down to an issue of restlessness in your soul. Now, as many of you have been along and we talked about within the Bible, I think one of the other challenges is that many times we pull a passage out like this and we use it as a means of trying to satisfy people and help them during restless times, right? But unfortunately, sometimes we don't keep it within the passage of the Bible that it's coming from and remember who it is that Jesus is speaking to. This is kind of what we call context. Kind of helping you to understand who Jesus is speaking to when he says these words. Jesus is speaking to a group of people who have been under legalistic and religious burdens. They have been trying to keep 613 religious rules as a means of being good enough to be with God. That doesn't even include all the other oppressions and different challenges that they've had politically. So it kind of helps us to keep it right there in context and understanding who it is that Jesus is speaking to, but understand too that he's not just speaking to this group, he also shares this with us. And really speaking to you and I. We're suffering and challenged by a need to be good enough. One of my friends said he comes from a very conservative background, and he said, yeah, we had our list of goodisms. Oh, this would show that I'm good enough to be worthy to be in the presence of God. And what Jesus is saying here is that, hey, I'm actually going to release you from that. And that's not what this is about. It's not about your goodisms. It's not being good enough. It's not following these rules and all of a sudden you can have access to God. He's saying, no. I'm going to make it so much better than that. This short portion of his teachings, Jesus clarifies that what we have, and he gives us a solution. So let's look at it. So it's Matthew chapter 11, and if you aren't there with me, it's verse 28 is where we're starting. And it says this, come. I know, that's just one word, but it's amazing how powerful this word is. You know what that word is? It's an invitation. It's an invitation to you and to me. It's not compulsory. Not like, well, I'm putting this on you. No, I say, come to me, Jesus is saying. He's not forcing you with anything. It's an invitation to accept what he's just about to offer you. I have a lawyer friend of mine who was saying, yeah, we were talking about this passage, and he said, Russ, you need to understand, in basic legal terms, it's an offer made, acceptance of the offer, transaction complete. He said it's basic legal terms here, but he said you need to understand is that it's an offer, but you have to accept it if you want the offer to go through. And he's offering it to all who labor and are heavy laden. But the word that is the most powerful within that is, again, one that is simple, but yet so amazingly comprehensive. All. All. It's not just to good people, it's not just to bad people, it's not just to attractive people, it's not just to ugly people, it's not just to rich people or poor people or men or women, it's to all. This is an offer that goes out to everybody. All who labor, whose load, who's been bearing it, you feel it on your soul, you can probably feel it now. This burden. I mean, for some, you can see it physically. You know, you can probably think in your mind of those that you can see just are weighed down by the weight of the world. In so many ways, it just feels physically hunched over by this burden. But yet, most of us maybe not manifest it physically, but yet you can know and understand that we suffer from a burden, a restlessness deep inside of us. And see, what Jesus is really showing here is this kind of contrast of burden and rest. Burden and rest. And what is the burden? Well, see, my friends, the burden is not just a local one. It's not one just for the hearers. It's really one for all of the human race. He's not talking about political oppression or poverty, or even how hard your work is. It's much deeper than that. It's felt by both the rich and the poor. It's felt by everyone. It's the weight of sin. Ooh, that word. Ooh, Mufasa. Ooh, you say it's sin. Ooh. But the thing is, what's interesting about it is that many, even within the Christian tradition, don't even really know what that word means. We throw it around. What does it even mean? Will someone label it as the burden of the world? While some would say that it is doing what is wrong and not doing what is right that is as established by God. It's the actual thing, the burden that separates us from mankind from God. Some theologians even put it simply, just taking it down to not trusting God. The burden of mankind, the burden of the world, the burden of sin is a crushing thing. And many of us don't even realize we're under that. We don't even realize that that is what's pressing down on us. There's an author and pastor named A.W. Tozer who said, it's a load carried and a toil borne to the point of exhaustion. It's a weariness. This is the burden. It also can even be the burden of those who think it's about good works. That if I just do this, somehow that makes me right. And it's not about good works. So the contrast from burden is rest. What does Jesus offer? Well, it's a release from this burden. It's not something we do. It comes to us when we cease to do. In his meekness, he offers us rest. It's an offer. It's not a nap. It's not a good night's sleep. It's something deeper. It's a rest for the soul. It's a lightening of the burden. It's a lightening of the load. It gets it off of us because it's been put upon him already. He's taken it and he's offering it to us, saying, you can be released from this burden. I'm offering it to you. Come to me. True rest can only come through Christ. The rest for the soul, the release of this burden, can only come through Jesus. Now, there are some of you here that don't know me that well, or maybe you haven't known me as well as you thought. But one thing that I've talked about in the past is that I worked in sales for 14 years. Some people go, yeah, we know. But with that actually came skepticism, automatically. I mean, it's just like, because I come with an offer all the time, every day I was selling stuff, and I come with an offer, and there was always a catch, right? Oh yeah, There's going to be a cost, isn't there? I mean, people that smile, they definitely tell when they've been pulled into my whole line of thinking and considering and buying whatever it was, but they said, but what is it going to cost me? And within this passage, some of us could maybe misconstrue what Jesus is saying next as the catch. The bait and switch. Oh, I see. You say you're going to give me rest, but what? You're going to offer something else to put on me? Well, there in verse 29 it says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." To many, that looks like a catch, right? Because, I mean, what is a yoke? It's not the inside of an egg, just so you know. A yoke is actually something that would be put on a beast of burden. For those who aren't familiar with farming terms, it would be something put on an ox or maybe a mule, and they would carry along, usually a pair, and they would go along and they would carry along and pull a wagon or something heavy behind them. So why is Jesus bringing this up now? I want rest. I don't want a yoke. I don't want to have something put on my shoulders. See, the problem is that we aren't really understanding what he's saying here. Jesus is saying, you already have a yoke on your shoulders. That thing that you're feeling, that burden that you already have is there, and it is hard, and it's going to destroy you. The sin of the world will destroy your life. It will crush you. No matter what you try to do, no matter how good you might think you are. And Jesus is saying, look, I'm offering a yoke of learning and a lightening of your load. I'm going to show you that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. I got this covered, but I'm there with you. It's a new yoke. See, even if you don't think you're carrying a yoke right now, you're not carrying a burden. The reality is that we all are. We all have. The weight of the world is what is really upon our shoulders. I found it interesting. There was a French philosopher, and he said, just so you know, I don't read French philosophers regularly, but I just thought this was an interesting quote. Anatole France says this: "Man is so made that he can only find relaxation from one kind of labor by taking up another." See, this is within Jesus' wisdom. He knows the rest we seek is not in activity. I know some of you think rest and you think, hammock on the beach, right? Well, just so you know, a hammock on the beach, there's a cost for you to be able to even do it. He's not talking about that. What he's saying that he's not talking about an issue of ignorance or just not having something in your life. He's showing, I'm going to give you unending discovery, learning, growing. Learn from me, and you will find rest. That's what Jesus is what he's showing us and helping us to understand. See, now, what's amazing within this visual of a yoke, if you understand and see, is that there are two here. One would be you, and the other would be Jesus. The yoke isn't just a matter of pulling or lifting. It's also a way of sharing the load, lessening the burden. See, when you follow Christ and you accept the offer that Jesus is giving you, he's not saying to you, hey, by the way, your life's going to be easy now. I'm not eliminating life. What I'm saying is that I'm lightening your load. I need to be helped in the process. I'm there with you. Right there. Also, it's a training tool. Usually it's an older oxen with a younger oxen, or an older mule with a younger mule. One's the master, and the other one learns. We have God with us. Jesus is saying, hey, I'm tied to you. I'm here with you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to walk alongside you. But then also another thing that I've learned here recently that I hadn't really seen before, but I've really come to appreciate, especially for those of us who are Christians who sometimes still feel a burden, is that it also forces us to slow down. We can't move ahead of God. We can't fall behind. It's a shared yoke. We cannot get ahead of Him if we're honestly tethered to Him. It eliminates the need to hurry. See, to actually gain rest, He offers this yoke. And the yoke really could be interpreted as Him. He's offering Himself. It's really at the heart of Christianity. I cannot prove myself to God by myself. Only God can, only Jesus can, and the only way that I can do that is by being with Him and accepting Him into my life. Taking Jesus on, and His load is light. It will not destroy you, will not drive you into the ground. By putting Him on, He's the only thing that's truly lowly and humble enough, and His yoke is easy, and it is where you truly find the rest for your soul. True rest can only come through a relationship with Christ. Through the work of Jesus. The work that's already been done. See, I know for some of you are going to leave here today, and you're going to walk out, you're going to go have lunch, maybe go have a nap, get ready for your week, maybe go to the pub, do something. I don't know, there's things that everybody does. There are all these different things. Maybe go watch the cricket or something. Looking for something to help you with your restlessness. But yet, I hope that this message actually starts to eat away a bit and cause you to wonder and ask, how can I gain true rest for my soul? Because I don't have it now. See, when you grasp this truth, when you understand what Jesus is trying to share with us here, it's what we call salvation through Him. We gain life. Now, again, speaking to the skeptic, those who are kind of still going, oh, but I don't know. I get it. I don't know if I necessarily want that. Well, maybe there's a misunderstanding, because actually, one of the things I had to do regularly when I was in business, and even in ministry, is I not only have to look at what it is, but also what it's not. What Jesus is offering here isn't an automatic thing. I talk to so many people who say, well, I'm good enough. Hey, if there is a God will take care of me because I'm good. I didn't murder anybody yesterday. But it's not an automatic thing. This goes all the way back to the beginning. Come to me. It's an offer. You have to actually accept it. You have to believe it. Also, it's not a license just to be. I think that's one of the advantages of getting offered the yoke. It's not all of a sudden, I'm given this release of burden, so I can just go out and live the life that I want to live. I can be free. And there's freedom in being a follower of Christ, but there's also an opportunity for us to be able to live and grow and understand and learn from God. And like I said before, too, it's not the elimination of life. It's not the walking through the daisies mentality, thinking that somehow all of a sudden things are all going to be easy. That's actually kind of counter to what the Christian message says. Life continues on. Challenges come. But what's beautiful about what Jesus gives us, He's there with us. We can turn to Him during those times of challenge. Turn to Him during those difficult times. Actually, we can turn to Him for everything. So what is it? What is it that I'm sharing with you? True rest is the refreshment of the soul. It's the ease of your burden. It's the lightening of your load. And really, my friends, once you accept it, it's irresistible. It's irresistible. Regardless of whatever size of burden you think that you have. So many of us go, I always love those testimonies. Well, I just need to get myself right with God first. That's like taking a bath before you take a shower. It doesn't make any sense. What Jesus is saying, come to me now, as you are. I gotcha. Believe in me today. As it says in Hebrews 4:3, for we who have believed enter that rest. See, if you have the opportunity to, if you haven't read this, if you haven't gone through and really opened up one of the biographies of Jesus, I would encourage you to do so. Because this is incredible what he's offering and what he's sharing here with this group of people. But then on top of it, it even gets better. Just so you know, I have an incredible wife. She was standing up here before, but she's one of those people that likes to read the last page of a book before she buys the book to know whether or not she's going to want to buy the book because she knows how it's going to end. That to me is the most frustrating thing I could ever do. It's like, tell me the end of a movie. Oh, don't ever do that. But I am going to, spoiler, I'm adding a spoiler in here. Are you ready? Later on in the biography of Jesus, what Jesus does is incredible. He goes to the cross. He goes to the cross for you and for me, for the world, because of our sin. Pays the price, dies, rises again, and proves who he is, that he is God. And that he is the only one who can make this offer. I mean, it's incredible. No one else can make this offer. Only Jesus. He made himself nothing so that I could be everything. It's amazing. I was reading in my devotions, and it's in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. And it says, just so you know, devotions are just spending time with God. Just so you know, it's not some special spiritual thing. And it said, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. This is Jesus speaking to Paul. For my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. That passage is for the first group of people I want to finish with today. That's for all the Christians out there saying, I'm so tired, I'm so burdened. But yet you're saying, I'm with Jesus and he's with me. He said, yeah, he is. But I have a feeling what's happening, and this is what's been happening with me over the past few months, is I've been fighting against the yoke. I've been pushing hard, going, I want my will. I want my way. I want my time. And that, my friends, is sin. To admit and actually say that even as Christians, we still struggle. You can be released from your burden. You can have rest for your souls. Admit your sin. Turn back to your Savior. Rely on him. His light is, his love is so light. But yet we make it so hard. I want it my way. Why don't they do it this way? Because it's not about you. It's about me, Jesus. It's about me in your life. The second group would be the skeptics. I've talked to you a few times in this talk. There's some that are going, hey, look, I'm not really sure about this whole Jesus thing. I'm not even sure if God's real. Cool. I'm impressed that you're here today. Well done. Start searching. Because the thing is that if you can admit today that you're restless within your soul, start looking into it. As I said before, just open up the pages. What's great is that it's completely accessible within this country of ours. Open up one of the biographies of Jesus and start reading. Learn about his story. There's 4 of them. They're all written from kind of different perspectives, but they all really say the same thing. Jesus is the answer to your restlessness. Jesus is the answer. He's the rest that you need. And finally, I'm speaking to those of you, regardless of how long you've been going to this church, regardless if you've been baptized, regardless of what you've done in your life or where you grew up. Some of you are still living a life of quiet desperation. And Jesus is saying, come to me. He is there for you. He'll give rest to the weary. He'll refresh and renew you. He'll give you rest for your souls that comes through salvation in Him. What's so beautiful about it, it's just simple. It's just saying, yeah, Lord, I want what you have to offer. Jesus, be the Savior of my life. Utterly simple, and yet amazingly comprehensive. It's a beautiful thing what Jesus offers us in this passage. It's probably misunderstood by many. Maybe you'll use it differently on social media tomorrow. But remember what Jesus said. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Rest for your souls. Take on the yoke that is me. Today, I will make it light for you. You no longer have to carry the burden. When you get back to life, I am there with you. So for those of you who have never or have maybe just been considering it, today might be that day. Today could be the day you say, yes, Jesus, I want rest for my soul. Yes, Jesus, I believe you are the one who can give me that. You can pray with me. We'll pray, and we'll just commit this time to Jesus. Father, this passage is humbling. This passage is challenging. But yet I pray for all those that are here right now, that are looking for a lightening of the load. I pray specifically for those right now who don't know you, who want to know you. I pray that today they would be able to say, Jesus, I want to know you. I want rest for my soul.